4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome back, everybody, to the From the Bench podcast. Once again, I'm Eric. It's my co-host, Trevor.
What's going on, everybody?
There you go. So we thought we'd do a second episode this week. There's just nothing else to do. And, you know, if the content's there, we might as well put it out. So,
kidding me? There's lots to do.
There's lots to do. There's lots of
just living it over here.
When it comes to draft, like you said, especially with the NFL, it's always good to kind of recap some teams and stuff. And then, like I said, the draft prospects. The draft's 2 weeks away, literally from today. So as of right now, I think the draft would have already started as we're recording. So, like I said, that's exciting. So drop a couple of those. So tonight we're going to start off with the hockey end of it to start. So it'll be we're going to talk about NHL Draft Prospects. Trevor's got one that we're going to focus on. Then we're going to switch over from there. We're going to talk about a goalie in the NHL. And he's kind of moved around a little bit the last couple of years, but we're going to...
Pending free agent.
Pending free agent, yep. So we're going to talk about him. Then we're going to break down the Bruins. So we dropped, the Leafs 2 or 3 episodes ago. Then we talked about the Canadiens last week. This week we're going to talk about the Bruins. They're the other big team around here. So for us, may as well highlight those guys. Then we're going to move on to the NFL prospects. We got a quarterback. We got a rusher. We got an edge rusher. We got another offensive lineman. And we got a cornerback to talk to you guys about. All these guys are going to be, pretty much top 15 picks, if not top 10. And then
highly sought it out.
And then we're gonna talk about possibly the team that was the biggest disappointment last year. Some people had them listed as a Super Bowl favorite, and that is the Cleveland Browns. So
a lot of people thought they were going to the playoffs for sure, and that did not happen.
That didn't even happen. So think about the Super Bowl. No, they literally didn't even make it to the playoffs for the chance. So I said go over all that, but we're going to start off on the ice with an NHL draft prospect. We still don't know exactly when the draft's going to be. The NHL is still trying to figure out some stuff, but who do you have, Trevor? Who do you want to talk about?
I'm going to talk about today. We're going to talk about both of us. We're going to talk about Jamie Drysdale.
Yep.
5'11", 175 pounds, D-man, right-handed D-man, so that's in demand. We all know in the NHL nowadays. Well, he was also in the World Juniors.
Yep, that's where I know him.
He definitely started slow. I was one of the guys. I was where I first got to see him as well. At first, he didn't look too impressive, but as further the tournament went along, he was gathering steam, and you could tell the coaches loved him. His playing time went up dramatically.
It's hard to look impressive with the bird cage on though. So that's
that's true too.
You lose style points right there. So
that's just brutal. Can you imagine having like a half shield and then trying to adjust? Like that takes a little bit of an adjustment too.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. Anyways, all right. So moving along. So let's get talking about this guy. So he's an offensive defenseman. That's what a lot of people say he is. I like to think he's a two-way guy. He doesn't get enough credit for in his zone, but let's start with the offense part of it. So I wrote down here in my notes, he drives the offense.
Yep.
So he's just unreal. Like when it comes to their first pass out of the zone, bang on. He can also go end to end with it, with no trouble at all. I got here, he's an elite skater. It's hard to explain to you, but when you put the tape on the highlights, this guy can skate like backwards.
He's so smooth.
Than a lot of guys. Like a lot of guys will panic, like if a guy gets up almost right beside them when you're skating backwards, and he just like turns it up a gear. He doesn't turn his hips, and he keeps up, and he somehow makes more distance. So what else I want to say? So like I said, offensively, so power play, he can run a power play. His shot is good, not elite.
No.
There's something he could work on a little bit. It's a decent shot, but in his accuracy a little bit, definitely could use a little boost there. But there's so much to like about his game that it's just minor details.
And he still put up nine goals in the O this year. And so
Eric, I'm not gonna lie to you. Like his team, not that good.
Your Otters?
Lots of there's just lots of examples where he, like, it's almost like a 2-on-1, and the guy's gonna tap in and he does not finish. I don't understand it. Go watch the tape, people. You see what I mean. There's a lot of that. Guys just seem to get the puck in a prime position. He sets them up, and they just can't seem to finish. And that happens, right? Like when you're not on a great team, and guys are struggling. You know how that goes.
Yep.
The puck sometimes just does not go in the net, gentlemen. So, and ladies.
No, it's not a guarantee at all, right? So.
All right, so his skating. So what I really like about him is his skating. His edge work, everything about his skating is excellent. He's fast as hell. He takes a lot of chances because of that, but the best part about it, if he does screw up that way, he's able to get back, and you can see it. And he's not afraid to take a chance, and it's exciting, and it's electric hockey. So,
and like we said, I think we mentioned that about Jeremy Poirier last episode.
We did,
but this guy's on another level, 100%, right? But
there's a reason he's a top 5, can be a top 5 pick.
But that's why you're seeing more and more guys like this, right? You know, the 5'11", like who would have thought you would think about a 5'11" defenseman as being a top 5 pick in the NHL draft, right? Like that would have been unheard of. That would have been unheard of, 20 years ago, right? So even 10 years ago, you would kind of been like, "Who? Like, there's not enough size." But nowadays, like I said,
we'll take a flyer on him in the 7th round back in the day, right?
Yeah, and that's it, right?
So now
it is what like it's one of those things you just kind of shake your head at. But that's the new era, right? Where it's all puck moving defensemen. It's all quick things. It's all getting that puck up ice. So I was impressed that this year he almost averaged a point a game. 49 games played, 47 points overall, 9 goals, 38 assists. Like that's impressive. +9 even on the year Otters.
And like I told you, like it could have been a lot more if guys would have just finished.
Yeah,
it's unreal.
And it's you always like to see.
Oh, fact too. Let's put out one more thing too. The power play of theirs this year was like one of the. I think they're like second from last. Okay. So there's a fun little note there too. So he could easily have another, let's say, 10 points. And
that's it's a lot of it, right? Like if you have a dominant power player, if you're playing with another dominant player, especially on like a forward, it's players. It always helps. But it was a +9 on that team, and it's always nice to see going into a draft. But the kid was wearing a letter on the jersey. He was wearing the A. That's and I guess it all depends, right? Every team's different. Sometimes that's the coach's decision. Sometimes that's a popularity contest because of stuff like this where they're going into the draft. Sometimes it's decided by the players, right? So you kind of got to see how that kind of equaled out and how it kind of worked out for them. But yeah, the kid is, like you said, I find that one of the nice things about him though is even through all of it, like he said, even though he's jumping up, like you said, he'll get back. It's
oh yeah, easily too. Easily, It's unreal. He doesn't make that many mistakes. Like, believe it or not, like he does make the odd one, but I'm telling you, like he's really consistently good. What else did I want? I wanted to talk about his defensive play. I don't think he gets enough credit for his defense, like in his defensive zone. He doesn't panic with the puck. Like I said, his skating's so good that. He can skate himself out of a lot of trouble, which a lot of guys don't have that in their toolbox. Mm-hmm. But he doesn't panic. Like if there's 2 options available and one gets pinched off, he'll hit the other guy. That's unlike Jeremy Poirier, where he'd go have 2 options and then he'd go seem to panic and go off the boards or glass and out. You do not see that in Jamie's game. So I really, I wanted to stress that, especially with the poise with the puck is huge. He just always seems to make the right decision with it. You can't that's priceless in the NHL. He's definitely, in my opinion, going to be top 4 defenseman, I believe.
Yep.
At least he's got that potential. I think offensively, he can even get better. Like I said, work on that shot a little bit, be a little more accurate. But his passing,
especially if you're sitting there, if you're looking at these guys, as quarterback power, power play quarterbacks, like that. even right there, that's going to make a world of difference, right? You know, everyone's looking for that power play quarterback. You know, some guys, Justin Schultz was that guy. You know, Edmonton brought in Mike Green. You know, it's something you want, right? You need a guy that can distribute the puck, that can be calm back there, and I think this kid can really do this, right? So
some guys are comparing him to Pietrangelo of the Blues. Honestly, he's not that elite. We'll say offensively, shot wise, Pietrangelo has got Christ. He's had a really good year this year. He must close to 15 goals, I think. He's up. Maybe not that many. Don't quote me on that, people. But he's had a really good offensive year, scoring goals. I don't see it.
Oh, Trevor, did you touch something? Oh, there you go.
No, there we go. I got low battery. Sorry.
Oh, what are you gonna do? So you got low battery. Do you have a charger for it?
I can't because I have to have my headphones in because it's. I know. It'll work. Trust me. We'll be good.
Oh God. Okay.
We're good. So where was I? You just threw me right off my.
You're the one telling me you're the one telling me 10 minutes in that you got low battery on your thing.
Don't ask.
Yeah.
But anyways, some puck battles against the boards and stuff. People unreal. He's really good. I also noticed in his zone, like I said, this is the last thing I'll say in the zone. But his stick's really good in the zone. That stuff you can't really teach. You either have it or you don't. So he's got a good stick. So we'll just say elite hockey sense, and I want to use that word in both ends, offensively and defensively. That's how I feel. Would you agree?
Well, if you're making a
Chime
team,
in here,
if you're making a Team Canada roster, you know, at any level, but even the for the World Juniors, you're not just a one-way player, and you're not, you know, as great as he is on the one end, to be a draft prospect and still be able to make the team as a defenseman. You know, you find them once in a while, but you know, the kid put up 7 games, put up a goal and 2 assists for 3 points. You know, not crazy numbers.
When you watch him play too, he's just a calming. You know, you want to play with him. He's got ice in his veins. He's not a Joe Nieuwendyk, but not Joe Nieuwendyk. Who am I? Scott Niedermayer. Sorry, you know Scott Niedermayer. He was a beauty.
Yeah,
he's not Scott Niedermayer, but he's just so cool in every situation. If they're down by a goal, it doesn't look like they're down by a goal. It looks like they're up by a goal. He's just calm. You know, that's priceless. You know, that's what you want as a coach. Guy's not going to panic. Other guys look at him. You know, he puts confidence in his teammates. I love it. Another thing, the last thing I want to mention about him that I did not stress in this is he can kill penalties too, and they don't talk enough about it. I know everybody talks about offense, but you got to be able to kill penalties too, and that's huge now in the game. Really, if you think about it,
it's something you're seeing more often, especially in junior hockey. Sometimes they're just putting out the best players, which I kind of like to see. Obviously, you don't want to see those guys get hurt from blocking a shot, stuff like that.
Oh, for sure.
But it's nice to see the good players out there because, you know, what players are the ones that keep the stick off the opposing, players, the opposing
leads to
team.
Offense too. Leads to offense.
So, but yeah, so I think it's great. You know, as we get closer to the draft, when we talk about these guys and stuff, we'll get into things like where they're going to go, where we think they're going to go in the draft. As of right now, we have no idea how the draft is even going to, take place for the NHL. We don't know how they're going to do the order, how they're going to finish the season. We don't know anything. So as of right now, we're just kind of trying to break him down. But I think he's a great player, a great guy to highlight. So definitely somebody's
going to be lucky to get him.
Yeah, and I think it's great that people were kind of figuring this out.
Best defenseman in this class. I'd say that myself.
Yeah, and like I said, even for this little stuff, like I said, that's why we do this. Kind of put the bug in people's ears, why we like people or why we don't like them. And, you can go check it out for yourself and give your own opinion.
If you totally don't agree with it, that's awesome too, people. It's up for debate.
Trevor and I are, really good friends here, and we don't agree on everything, so we don't expect everybody else to.
Each other sometimes, what? Think what of who? Are you on something? It's like, no, dude, no, I'm not on something.
Happens twice a week. So we're gonna move on. Get away from the prospects. Like I said, I thought for this week we wouldn't bother. I said just where we're so far away from the NHL draft. Potentially, I don't mind talking about a couple young guys here and there, but it's hard to really break down a bunch of guys because we don't know what's gonna go on here. And it's like I said, when we can get into where team fit stuff like that, that's kind of where it works out a little better. But we're gonna move on to the player we were talking about earlier that's been kind of jumping around the NHL a couple teams over the last few years, 4 teams in 4 years, is Robyn Lehner. Comeback player of the year last year. The guy obviously battled through a lot of stuff, depression, everything else. Trevor?
All right, I'm going to get into his numbers a little bit here. So what do we got here? So games played, he appeared in 36 games. He's got 19 Ws, and he's lost 10 times. He's got a save percentage of .920, goals against average, so it's like 2.89.
Yep.
But I'm just gonna say his numbers are good, but they could even be better. He went through a rough stretch, I think, with Chicago, where he lost like 5 games in a row.
And to be honest, Chicago
was just that bad.
Yeah, well, Chicago's kind of been struggling the last couple of years, and it's one of those things. It's everyone wants to win, but it's hard to keep it up forever, right? Like I hate the New England Patriots, to kind of bring it back to the football field for a second. But one of the most impressive things is that every year they go. When was the last time the Patriots won?
They've been dominant for 2 decades. When can you say that last?
They haven't lost. They haven't lost. They haven't went under.
You can say that about.
Well, it was Detroit forever, and now Detroit's kind of going through their own little spell. But New England hasn't dropped below double-digit wins in 20 years. That's ridiculous, right?
It's unreal. It's unheard of.
It is unheard of. And it's why
probably never be done again either.
No, well, and it's.
I'm an optimist. Let's say it's going to happen again.
Well, it's one of those things too. When you look at it with, like Detroit, like you were saying. So Detroit, I think, went like 24 straight years making the playoffs. Like. That's wild.
That's
it takes,
unreal.
To have a 30-league team, and obviously through the 24 years, at some points it was a little less, but still, you're still a decent amount of teams in the league and able to do it. So, but yeah, like I said, so they're going through a rough spot, and yeah, so he struggled a little bit. In Chicago, he had a .918 save percentage, and his goals against average was 3. 16, 10, and 5. But,
personally, I think he outplayed Crawford there in Chicago this year, honestly.
Yeah, and I don't know why.
Crawford wasn't great, wasn't brutal, but he wasn't great compared to Lehner.
And coming from guys that – it's always hard for these guys. Like, we were talking about Crawford. I don't know if it was on an episode or we were just talking between each other. But Corey Crawford is 35 years old. So this is coming from 2 guys that watched him play for the Moncton Wildcats.
And he's been – he's had a pretty good year if you consider he's been banged up the last 2 years.
Yeah, and
concussion problems and
that's it, right? But it's just crazy for us because you don't think about these guys being that old, and then you're like, oh yeah,
exactly.
He is. It's like Brad Marchand, right? Brad Marchand, and we'll get into him a bit. He's not a young pup either, right? He's 30.
He's getting up there, creeping up there.
So it's what happens, right? But yeah, I like. So Robyn Lehner gets traded at the deadline.
Do you like that trade? I like that trade. You like that trade? He
I like
ended up in Vegas, and he played really well there.
And the thing is, Fleury's not getting any younger. Malcolm Subban hadn't really taken that backup goalie job, and
not really.
And it's hard, right? You're trying to tell a guy that, look, you can come in every 4 games or you're on a back-to-back when the rest of the team's tired, and that's when you get to play and try to do something when everybody else is like.
I still haven't given up on him. But
that's the hard part about being a backup goalie, right? But I think Vegas kind of thought maybe, look, we don't know if we can go down the stretch with Subban, and
it was a great trade. I was shocked. I was surprised because I think I said this to you before that I really thought Chicago was going to sign Leonard. He's 28 years old, and they could use him. Honestly, a lot of teams could use Leonard. Like, that was a great move to lighten the load for Fleury, who's had a good year, but he's been you can tell when he plays a little bit too much. He starts giving up big rebound goals. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Typical Fleury. He's great. Like, I'm a big fan. But I really like the move. I didn't see it coming, personally. And I think it was just to lighten his load, get him a little fresher for the playoffs. And if he gets hurt, God forbid, you got Leonard, and he can win. He was doing it in the playoffs. They swept who did the Islanders sweep last year?
Pittsburgh. Yeah.
Like, there you go. The proof's in the pudding, right? He
yeah.
can play.
And that's the thing, right? So you have a guy like him that he's been there, knows how to do it. But,
he hasn't won the cup, but he's seasoned.
No. But that's, that's one of those things. It's always nice to have a guy that wins the cup. you can't have a team full of him, right? So, and if your backup goalie is Robyn Lehner, then you're doing good. And this is a guy that came in and, you know, was a second round pick by the Senators back in 2009. You know, I always like to kind of call the Senators like my girlfriend team. I have family that lives in Ottawa, so I've gone to see a game there, stuff like that. And they kind of wanted him to take the reins forever, and he never could do it, you know, never. He
wasn't ready.
No, like you know, on all the years that they were trying to put him in like more games, you know, he never finished the season with a winning record. You know, that was Ottawa when
works with goalies too, though, right?
Yeah, and
like
that was
goalies. It does take longer,
and some it does, right? So, and they kind of had him up and down, and then they said, "Look, we're done with it." You know, they shipped him off to Buffalo. You know, his first year's not great.
Hey, Buffalo, how'd that work out?
Yeah. And then, you know, the second year he goes to Buffalo, third year. So in his next 2 years, he does okay. It's Buffalo though, right? So, and it's not that's not a shot at Buffalo. It's just they've had a rough go of it the last, you know, however many years.
They got to figure some stuff out because they gave up on O'Reilly.
Poor Jack Eichel.
What's he do? He goes to St. Louis and wins the cup in his first year there.
Yeah, but that's
what a beauty.
But the two teams there are different.
Missing the chicklets. He's got the beard. Man,
just your good old country, you know, Canadian
plays
boy.
The guitar. Like, yeah. What a. I'm telling you, man. Like, what a role model.
Yeah, drives drunk into Tim Hortons. Great role model.
Come on.
So then he goes. He has all this stuff. It kind of becomes more public that this guy's dealt with a lot of things off the ice, aside from on the ice. You know, comes back and, you know, really changes his life around, and, you know, wins
his career, period.
Career, yeah, and that's, you know, and it's hard, right? He's
been turning it up the last couple of years in the NHL, and he's been with different teams, so that's hard too. You got
the thing,
teammates.
The thing is a lot of people don't think about. You know, a lot of us always go and say, "Well, these guys make millions. You know, they can't complain about anything." You can make millions, and it can still not be great.
No kidding. If you're making millions and you're on a losing team, not fun, people.
Or if you're just making millions and, you know, you're getting shelled, or you know, you look at the paper every day and it says Robyn Lehner sucks, you know, across the front, or Lehner, you know, loses another game, or you go on, you know, I know there was an local article here, and this is a junior player, but Anderson McDonald a couple years back went and he said, like, you know, he dealt with a lot of anxiety and a lot of depression and stuff like that. And some issues is, he goes, you know, you don't want to read the message boards. You don't want to read all this stuff, but sometimes you do. And there's guys like you and I, and, you know, we're pretty, as much as we can bash on people, you know, we're pretty decent about it. But there's some people that are just ruthless out there. And,
for sure.
You know, it's, you know, it'd be like telling you, Trevor, never go on Facebook, right? Or never.
I'd be all right with that. It'd be Instagram for me.
Yeah, Instagram, whatever, right? But you can never go on anything and look at anything, right? You want to, if you love sports and you want to check the rest of it, well, you can't go on there, because if you see anything, you might see somebody talking, you know, crap about you. So it's a frustrating thing.
Let them talk, Murray. Let them talk, boy. So I'm going to pose a question to you, Eric.
Yeah.
So do you think they sign him back, or is he going somewhere?
I think they'll try to. I don't know if they can afford to, though. Just because you're going to have so much money. You're paying Fleury. He's getting $7 million a year.
You
know, yeah, exactly. You're paying Fleury. You know, can you pay Lehner too? Probably not.
Probably not.
And, you know, you go through the list of, like, teams that are out there that need a goalie, and a lot of teams there are quite a few, but then you got to find the right one. You know, I think we've mentioned before, you know, a lot of these teams now are going by goalie by committee. At the end of the day, I still believe that you need a number one at the end of the day, and
you always got to have a true number. That's the way I feel too.
Yeah, like split them up a little more. You know, the days of,
for example, did Boston play? Who did Boston play all last year? It was Tuukka.
Yeah.
You know,
no, but they also got Halak, right? So
Halak never got a sniff in the playoffs, so that's all I'm saying.
Which is the right way, right? When you get to the playoffs, that's where it completely changes. But you go down through the list, you know, none of the big teams, you know, Boston, Tampa, Toronto, Florida, Canadians, you know, maybe Buffalo, but why would he go back to Buffalo at this point? Senators, I can't
see it.
Can't see him going back to the Senators either. Why would you go back to the Red Wings? Or why would you go to the Red Wings? Probably not.
They'd have to overpay.
And that's
not
one of those things.
Though. We say that, though. It depends on his opportunities. And if the money's right or he likes to fit, all the power to him.
And I think that's what with the Islanders, that's why they let him go, right? Because they decided to them that their system is more important. And that they could get a goalie, like a Varlamov, and I can't remember who else they grabbed, but they could grab, multiple goalies.
Glass, not Glass.
I can't remember.
But anyways, I don't remember his name either. It'll come to me.
But you can just run with those two goalies, and with their system, the way that they operate, that's good enough for them. So. Obviously he's gonna get another chance. He's not gonna, he's still young. He's only 28 years old.
He is for sure. He's one of the best goalies who's hitting the open market.
Yeah,
if not the best.
And you don't get him all the time, right? Obviously he hit the open market last year too, but he wanted to do
himself. Made $5 million.
If you can do it, you can do it, right? Pick pick where you want to go. There's lots of teams out there that you can go to.
I wouldn't be in the least surprised if Chicago made a run at him in free agency.
Yeah,
he even said he liked Chicago. He enjoyed it there, but
sometimes it's just
supposed to say,
and
right?
sometimes it's a business decision, right? Blackhawks aren't going to make the playoffs. If you can trade the guy and get him back afterwards, great. You're looking at other teams. Maybe the Wild take a run at him. Devin Dubnyk hasn't looked the greatest the last little bit. I don't think the Kings or Ducks or maybe the Sharks, someone like that, might take a run at him in free agency. But it's it's nice to see that a guy like him has been able to bring his career back,
turn it around. Yeah. And now we're talking about him, and he's being talked about. He's up there in echelon with the goalies. I wouldn't say he's in the top 10, but he's flirting around there. Yeah.
So speaking of top 10 goalies, we're going to transition over to the Bruins, who have a top 10 goalie. In the league, Tuukka Rask, former Toronto Maple Leaf,
drafted by the Maple Leafs. That's right.
Former Toronto Maple Leaf, Tuukka
Fun
Rask.
Fact, do you know who they traded Tuukka Rask for, Eric?
Andrew Raycroft. What do you mean?
Oh my God! Guess who won that trade? Not the Maple Leafs.
Rookie of the year, Andrew Raycroft. So
he should have retired. He was so good. He should have retired.
Should have went out on top. He was also Andrew Raycroft's also a former Colorado Avalanche. He had a cup of coffee with us too. So
a little bit of throw up in my mouth. Come on.
So looking at the Bruins this year, the best team in the NHL by record wise. They had played 70 games before everything got shut down. 44 wins, 14 losses. 12 extra losses in OT or shootout. Funny stat too, they went 0 for 7 in the shootout. So
love it.
Yeah.
Suck on that, Bruins.
Yeah, so they went 0 for 7 in the shootout. The unfortunate thing for the rest of the NHL, there is no shootout in the playoffs. So not
damn
great.
Well should be. No, I'm just kidding. I would have a heart attack.
So yeah, that'd be terrible. Just shoot me in the face. So they're leading, they're 6 points up on the next closest team, which is St. Louis. Colorado's right behind that, too, at 92 points. So it's, they were, had a couple games in hand and were still the best team, by a good margin. And that's that a lot of that comes down to Tuukka Rask, which
some of it. Well, it's a whole team effort.
Well, this year they actually had, so Tuukka played in 41 games. And Halak actually played 29. So they obviously not a complete split, but they were right there, between the two of them. They didn't try to overwork Tuukka. They didn't try to overwork either or. Tuukka went 26-8-6. Halak went 18-6-6. Tuukka's numbers were all better, a 2-1-2s goals against, a 929 save percentage with 5 shutouts. Halak had a 2.39 with a 0.919 with 3 shutouts. And a lot of that, like I said, with all these things with the backup goalies, you want to try to win games, but a lot of times they're coming in on a back-to-back.
These two work good together. Like, I'm pretty sure Halak is a free agent at the end of this year. I'm hoping they bring him back. I hate Boston. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Well, I don't hate Boston. there, but I hope they do bring him back. It seems to just work out good for them.
And it's like I said, I don't think there's any egos there. They both know their roles. And you know, a lot of it comes down to, you know, they got one of the best goal scorers in the league this year. You know, you got Pasta. What a nickname. Put up 48 and 47 actually.
25 points.
So he's just, you know, he's out there. You had Brad Marchand, the face licker,
lighting the lamp.
Also, former Moncton Wildcat. Like I said, I will mention a former Moncton Wildcat every day of the week on here. So Brad Marchand, he put up 28 goals. He's got 59 assists for 87 points. You know, and it's a lot of it. So those are your heavy hitters. Everyone also knows about Bergeron. Obviously, Bergeron.
Would you say, like, Bergeron is no slouch himself? He had 31 goals this year, so 25 helpers. But on that note, and he was hurt too, so he played in fewer, I think like nine fewer games than the other two. So roughly off the top of my head. But would you, in my opinion, this is probably the best line in hockey. I hate to say it, but it's just like they just got a sixth sense of where each other are. Like they look each other off so well, and they're just dangerous. Like,
it helps too, because you know that, you know, when you have the goalies that are back there that are that good, when you have some, you know, some good defensemen out back, and for those two, you also have, you know, Bergeron, who's, you know, going to play good defensively. What do you have for percentage? 5%? What were we at before?
17 earlier. It was 10 when it shut off last time.
Oh my God. This is going to go great. So
this is great.
Yeah. So, you know, they have a lot going for them. They also have some young guys kicking in too, right? So they got Jake DeBrusk. You know, he was part of those 3 draft picks in a row.
He's the only one in the NHL.
Yeah, so he's put up 19 and 16. You know, you got other young guys. You got Charlie McAvoy, who, you know, they had to work stuff out with over the offseason after his entry-level contract. You know, 5 goals, 27 assists. Torrey Krug, you know.
Torrey Krug. You got Torrey Krug's just a beauty. He's a free agent at the end of the year, so it'll be interesting to see if they can make the money work. Yeah, exactly.
It's hard, right? Like that's
well, you know
the thing.
What? Boston's got good luck that way. Can we not agree on that? That the guys just seem to take a little bit less to stay there.
And that's one of the things, right? Like you get some of these teams.
One thing, they don't do that in Toronto.
Nope. So, and that's one of those things, right? Like, and you know, a lot of guys have said it. You know, Crosby said it. You know, McKinnon came out recently, said it, probably because he, you know, chums around with Crosby so often. But
and I hate to say it, Torrey Krug is it's fun to watch him.
Yeah, really he's and he had that huge thing last year in the playoffs where
he hits guys too 3 times his size.
He lost his helmet, his helmet, and went barreling down the ice and just took Buddy's head off. Like, wasn't looking out for anything else other than take that guy's head off. And any Bruins fan that says otherwise is full of it. Like, I know you loved him for going out there with no helmet and flying at him, but that guy was going to take someone's head off every day of the week. So,
what'd you think of they brought in a little bit of youth too, and they made those trades with Anaheim. So they brought in, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, who's a big power forward? Nick. Jesus.
No, Charlie Coyle. That's who you're thinking of.
No. This year they traded with Anaheim.
Nick Ritchie.
Yeah, they brought in Ritchie, and they brought in, what is it? They brought in the 25-year-old winger.
Case. Andre Cass or Case or whatever his name is.
Whatever. Well, I heard it both ways.
Yeah.
But I really like him. He's been dinged up. I think there's more offense with him. I'm not sure what Nick Ritchie is. I don't know. I'm thinking third line guy, kind of fourth line guy right now. He was a first round pick, but I think there's more offense there too.
That's the nice thing about him on the Bruins is he can be a third line guy, right? You know, he doesn't have to be a second line guy because
that worked out with, like you just said. You just name dropped Coyle, and how good has he been there?
Yep,
he's been awesome.
He's been awesome, right? So. And, you know, you take a seat back, right? Charlie Coyle was a first or second liner on Minnesota back in the day. You know, now he gets to drop down to second, third. You know, you play against weaker competition.
And they still bump him up in the offense, and it works out. You know, but a lot of times they play him at third, and they're unreal. He's
looked really, really good, right? So it's one of those things that I think Boston, like I said, they were the best team, you know, so far throughout the season where we were at. Do you want to point out, though? Colorado beat them both times they played them, straight up. But just
Colorado's going to get to the show to meet them, though, bud.
hey, I'm just saying.
Facts.
4-2 and 4-1, so put up 4 goals each time against the Bruins.
Just letting you know the facts, homie. You got to get to the final round, boy, to dance with the Bruins.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Look, okay, just because you're upset because you lose to
I'm
them.
not upset, bro.
Hey, just because you lose to them in the first round every year is not my problem. Not my fault.
Hey, not this year, boy.
Also, just for anyone listening,
Playing Tampa if we make it.
Trevor and I watched the famous Toronto meltdown to Boston at
Which year?
the Game 7.
No comment.
Where we were at. Do you remember where we were at?
Which one?
The big meltdown with Reimer.
Oh, you mean? Oh my gosh! Yeah, I remember. I was like, we were at Cody's house.
We're at Cody Bowman's. That's 5 for 5. 5 for 5.
Who called it? I called it after the first goal.
Yeah,
that it was gonna happen.
Shout out Cody Bowman for the 5th time in 5 episodes. So I was trying to build you up to that, Trevor. See how I was working with you there? I was really trying to build you.
I'm all upset. You brought up the worst memory, like one of my worst memories.
And it's true. So everyone that game was going on about how
it's like Gretzky. He never high stick Doug Gilmour either, even though there's blood everywhere.
Yeah.
Somehow they missed that too. Come on.
So Trevor, that game when everyone else is on Facebook and every Toronto fan is just giving it to the Bruins fans, which it looked pretty good.
Did not, for the record.
Trevor did not. So Trevor, I was sitting beside Trevor, and he's like, man, not celebrating, not till that last whistle. And I was like, he's like, man, they could come back. And I was like,
well, the Bruins have all kinds of experience, right?
Yeah,
you know how it works.
Sure as shit. Here we go. And next thing you know, Reimer's on his back, goals in the net, and that's all she wrote. So, but yeah, no. So Boston, like I said, I think they were the favorites. You have a couple other teams that are out there. Tampa really came on in the second half of the season, compared to the first half. The first half of the season they were sleeping, but it's just the Bruins. They're a good organization, top to bottom. They've
done a good job drafting.
Owners
got some
are
youth in their lineup, or their youth in their lineup right now. They could use probably a little bit more youth. It's coming. Boston's done a really good job with veterans and mixing it up. These trades with Anaheim brought more youth in as well. With these young guys, and that's going to work out too. So,
and you got they have Jack Studnicka. He's down playing in the AHL for the Providence Bruins. 21 years old. He's got
high hopes for him.
He's got 49 points in 60 games, and in the AHL that's good. It's second round pick in 2017. They got John Beaker. He was a first round pick for them last year, 30th overall. He's down in Michigan, another college guy.
Trevor likes this guy.
Trevor likes his college guys. Yeah. They got a couple other guys, Trent Frederick, and then they also got Urho Vakanainen. I'm going to go with that. She's a defenseman. I think he's also playing for the Providence Bruins. But, they do have a little bit, not that really top end, high end.
Still good guys, though.
Prospect,
Blue collar,
but it's hard to get those high end, top end prospects when you're, picking at the end of the first round.
Dominating all the time? Yeah, exactly. When they're finishing well.
So it's good
on the Bruins.
Good on them.
Honestly.
So, yeah, they don't have a whole lot of holes. Chara is still kicking it as much as he can. They said they've done a good job of bringing in a couple new guys every year, and like I said it'll be kind of different to see.
Mix. It's really a good mix.
Yeah, it'll be different to see how they handle the the cap as it goes, because a lot of these teams have had a hard time. Like I said, when you keep on winning over and over and over again, or at the top every year, it's hard, right? Because those guys want to get paid. You're obviously at the top because those guys have performed, right? So. You run into that with, like I said, we mentioned Chicago. We mentioned, before we mentioned Pittsburgh. All these teams, they've had this issue. All these guys keep on winning, and you kind of got to get them to buy in to look. Maybe you don't take $12 million. Maybe you only take, like Pasta. He's on a good deal right now. He's the same
probably right now. Him and McKinnon are two of the best.
Yeah, because they're both on for like $6 million a year, right?
Exactly, like it's a steal.
So when that ends, does he gonna want 12?
So we're both gonna agree that Boston is really good, and they're gonna be really good for the next couple of years.
Yeah,
it's looking that way. Anyways, they're not gonna fall right off.
No.
So get used to it, people.
Yeah, that's all you can do, right? So, yeah.
So moving along, what do you want to talk about next?
Well,
next on the agenda, Haas.
So, we might take a quick break because I think
take a quick break.
Well, I think we're gonna take a quick break so you can plug in your goddamn iPad. So it doesn't
3%.
Yeah, 3%. And we got the second half of this, which is
we're going to intermission, Haas.
So we're gonna go with the intermission.
I can use another cocktail. The whiskey's getting a little low.
Pray for me later, everybody. So once again, as usual, we're gonna go off the ice. We're gonna go on to the gridiron, get into the football field, and
little foosball.
Little foosball, exactly. So we're going to talk about some NFL draft prospects. I think all the draft prospects we have, like I said earlier, there's at least 3 of them that are probably going to be top 10 picks. And then with one of them, actually, I guess it all depends how it lands, but they should all be top 15 picks at least. So we're going to get going. I'll as always, let Trevor... Actually, before I forget to bring this up, did you see the trade earlier? We had a trade.
I did. I actually wrote some shit down on it. You want to hear?
Yeah, let's hear.
All right. So, as Eric said, Houston Texans traded for Brandon Cooks.
Yeah.
I know Brandon Cooks really well because, obviously, he played for New England.
Yep.
I'm a big fan. That's my team. So... how does this work? So the Texans got Brandon Cooks and a 4th-round pick in 2022.
Yep.
And the Rams receive a 2nd-round pick, and I believe that's this year.
Yep.
So first glance, my first thought is, okay, so this kind of helps for them losing Hopkins.
Yep.
Yes, I totally agree. But here's the scenario. The last couple of years, he's been nicked up. He's had concussion problems, and he can't stay on the field. By that I mean last year. Yeah. And I know because I had him in fantasy and I wanted to cry.
He was also knocked unconscious for like the Patriots in the Super Bowl. Like yeah. It's just how he. Like,
he's a beauty receiver. Don't get me wrong. Like he had a tough year last year. Like I said, concussions, and then when he seemed to play and he was healthy for a while, he just couldn't get in the groove. He dropped a lot of balls, 50-50 balls. If they hit him in the chest, then he dropped them. I've never seen him drop balls like this before. No. When he was a Breeze, and like I said, with New England, the man catches more than he drops. Like,
yeah, and he's a 100%. Good receiver. I guess the problem I have with it,
not a lot of height.
No, he's a smaller.
He's a burner. He is burner though. He's a deep threat. He can play in the slot as well.
Yeah,
I do like him. I really do like him.
It makes you think though, like he's kind of been passed around now, like the last couple of years, like for him to keep on like he hasn't.
You get him at a better price.
He still hasn't like really like everywhere he goes, he doesn't live up to the hype. Know what I mean? Which is kind of like he's okay, but like he's good, but he's not.
It makes you wonder why he, like you just said, like he's been tricked out a couple times.
Yeah.
But like everywhere he's gone, he's produced.
And the thing with the Rams is the Rams are just trying to get under the cap, trying to get some draft picks back, right? They gave up so many draft picks to get all these guys, to get Jalen Ramsey, to get,
I'm a little confused with the Rams right now. But,
well, even to get Brandon Cooks, right? I think they gave up a first to get him from the Pats.
They did.
So, right? So it's one of those things that, and the real issue that I kind of seen online was that everyone's like, so you gave up Nugent Hopkins and you got a 2nd-round pick back for him, who is one of the top 5 receivers in the league, but then you trade a 2nd-round pick for Brandon Cooks? Like, how does that make sense? Obviously, you get a 4th-round back, but it's like it doesn't make any
question.
Sense. Like
but you think you might be able to get him for a 3rd, like you just said, because he's got he's committed money.
Yeah,
and, that's harder. That's harder to sign, right? A lot of teams now will just wait it out. Like, well, they can't. Nobody will take him, so they got to cut him.
The other issue is this is one of the deeper receiver drafts, and we've gone over some of the receivers coming in this draft. But at this point, would you can get a guy on a rookie contract on a second, in the 2nd round. The money's a lot less. You get him for 4 years at a smaller salary.
I totally agree with that, but you know why they didn't do that? Because they're in win now mode.
Yeah, but if you're in win now mode, then don't trade
They definitely
Hopkins,
are.
right? So I don't know. I'm kind of wondering
You know what? That makes me feel like I really think with Hopkins, like that had to do with money, and they didn't. He wanted an extension.
Well, he
they didn't want to pay for
he
the money.
wanted big dollars, but him and the coach obviously don't get along either. So I wonder at what point does Bill O'Brien get kind of kicked off to the side and kicked out of there in Houston, or does he have naked pictures of the owner or something?
This makes me feel a little bit better about that earlier shit. Like, I totally agree. Hopkins, he's worth a number one. Like, let's not kid ourselves. Like, he's top 3 receiver in the league.
Yeah.
And even I wouldn't say last year, but year before last year, still a crazy speed. Now, he was so much in the slot last year, in the slot so much, and then moving him around. But I think he lost a little. It looks like he was a little slower, but looks can be deceiving. If you're not running those burner routes.
Yeah.
How do you know if he's still got the blazing speed, right?
That's it. And he's still like I said,
sick. Let's not even kid ourselves. He's still dynamite.
And he still get the route running, and he still has the hands, and he he makes the connection.
He's explosive. I'll come on the record and still say he's explosive.
And I don't think he didn't come out as a burner, right? Like, he was just known as a really good, physical receiver.
Clemson boy. I think he was I'm positive Clemson,
I think so.
Actually.
So it is what it is. But anyways, I just wanted to get in on that. You said I seen that. The other thing I wanted to get on quickly for the NFL.
So time out. So before we move on, do you like it or do you not?
I don't like it at all. I think it's a terrible trade. I just don't understand.
You know what? I like it to a certain extent, but the only thing I'm worried about is he's injury prone. You got Cobb that can't stay on the field. They signed Cobb, right?
You have Will Fuller,
Johnson,
and you also got Will
Fuller. There's another good point, Eric. He can't stay healthy either.
And the other problem is that they kind of play the same role, right? They're that burner, up the sideline, deep threat, great. But now you're
smaller receivers.
Smaller receivers. Exactly. Now you're kind of just being repetitive, which, look, Kansas City does it, and they do really well at it, right? They got Hartman. They got all these smaller, quick receivers.
Bill O'Brien's no Andy Reid, though.
No. So it's gonna be one of those things. You hope you see. At this point, you're almost just feeling bad. Like, I'm not a Texans fan. You're not a Texans fan. Like, we don't have any allegiance to them. But at some point, you just start feeling bad for them. And that's a lot of teams, right? So that's, to be honest, that's they
lost. They didn't get. He's good. Don't get me wrong. Brendan Cooks is good.
Not a second. Not worth a second.
Can these guys stay on the field? That is a big question mark. I like Johnson, the running back, but you traded Hopkins, and he wasn't great the last couple of years.
You traded
a lot of gamble here.
Well, you traded Hopkins, and one of the redeeming factors that you could say was, look, we've traded for so many people to try to improve the team over the last little bit. Laramie Tunsil, everything else. But so
they still signed Tunsil, I believe too.
I can't remember, but
it's coming up.
But yeah, I think coming up there, it's going to be here. But we have all this stuff. You've done all this stuff, so we need draft picks, and then you go and trade away a draft pick, right? So it just doesn't make sense.
Well, the way they've traded, they're another team that's traded away draft picks, exactly like you just said.
And that's where you got to. That's
and high draft picks. So.
And that's it works for a year or two to get guys off free agency and trades. But when you're trading big draft picks away, that's the problem that Rams are having right now, right? The Rams issue right now is that if something goes wrong, now you're kind of screwed, right? So it is what it is. The other thing I want to talk to you about, and I don't know if you saw, I had posted on social media, but what did you think about the new jerseys for the Buccaneers and the Falcons? I don't know if you saw the Falcons one, but
okay, so the Falcon one, the only one I liked with the Falcon one, it was the last one. It was more their throwback original.
Yeah.
Black with the other one, no. It looks way too cheesy, and I hate to say it, but college-like.
What's with the two-tone fade kind of thing? I
can't even handle it, man. And with the big Atlanta, I can't
ATL.
Oh, I hated it. I'm not gonna lie to you. I really did like the last one. It's all black. It's like a throwback to their traditional.
Yeah.
I really like that one, but no, the rest of them junk. The Bucks. You know what the ironic part about the Bucks one is when they won with Warren Sapp and that. Yeah. That was the jersey they won, or they were basically wearing. Very similar. So I didn't mind that one, which I thought was interesting because they got Brady. It's kind of like they went away from their new ones. Just they're going to sell jerseys like a mother, so it's kind of genius.
Well, it's one of those things, right? You're going to have a lot of new fans, And now you're gonna have a bunch of new jerseys, right?
The Bucks just changed the jersey not that
long
ago,
like 2 or 3 years ago, right? So,
yeah, exactly.
But
I don't think it's been 3 years.
I think a lot of it now. There a lot of teams are like, I know they kind of had a more busier jersey before, and they tried for a couple of different things. I think a lot of them are just trying to like simplify it. Like theirs, they have the little bit of orange kind of inside the numbers, just it's something different, right? But it's interesting. I think there's a couple other teams that are going to be releasing new jerseys in the coming weeks. I know the Falcons were only supposed to release theirs next week. They got leaked, so they said screw it when they released it yesterday. Yesterday or whatever it was. So they just said like, look, if it's already out there, no sense in
what the hell? Exactly.
No sense in holding off.
Why are we waiting another week?
Yeah, no sense. So the Chargers one hasn't been released yet though, and that one's supposed to be coming out on the 21st, so a day or two before the draft. So
I'm still on the record. I can't stand the new LA Rams one. I think it's horrible.
That
like,
logo
why mess
is
with the
terrible.
classic? So you know me, Eric. You know my opinion with a lot of jerseys and stuff. I do like the traditional stuff, like especially with the NFL.
Yeah.
With the NHL, I think they're doing a good job with the Winter Classics. I really do like some of the jerseys that are coming out with that, and I almost wish they'd wear some of those jerseys for third jerseys.
Well, they actually did a lot of them this year. They wore them later on for other games.
Because I do like it.
Yeah.
I don't know about yourself.
I only really noticed it this year, but I noticed Colorado. I don't know if they did or they're supposed to. I can't remember now. But I know the Kings wore their jerseys again, and the Stars wore their jersey for like the Stadium Series stuff too.
See, I kind of like that.
Yeah,
personally.
But yeah, no, I just wanted to get your opinion. Like I said, it's literally the only new news we've had for the NFL.
I don't know how I feel about it. Like, I'm kind of on the fence. I'm like, makes me feel better. Like, okay, so Bill O'Brien looks like he has some of a plan, or they had a plan, which is okay. But
sort of.
Like I said, it's a goddamn gamble. Like, you've got 3 receivers. You're hoping that 2 of them or 1 of them could stay on the field. So you're taking a risk that way, and the running back as well a little bit. So, it's interesting, but like we also just discussed, or you brought up, they're trading away these draft picks, man, and these guys are hurt all the time. They could use the youth and the depth behind them. So
like
it's a little interesting.
If you have all these other receivers, like I said, there's supposed to be loads of good receivers in this draft. It's supposed to be one of the deepest receiver drafts.
They just don't want to wait. We both know they don't have the patience to wait.
Yeah, but it's supposed to be so good that it's supposed to be so good that even if you grab somebody in the second round, they're supposed to be like that's what they're saying. Those are almost starting caliber. And I understand you get a guy that for sure.
I get you, but like they're exactly. They want the proven track record. You know how that is.
Yeah, like I said, it's just
want to take a chance on my guy's a stud that we drafted.
Yeah, and it's the only issue with that, like I said, is that hopefully he can play. He doesn't, he can stay healthy, but see how that goes. Exactly. So talking about the draft, obviously, so we'll move into that point of it. So who did you want to talk about first? I know you got 2 guys. You got a cornerback and you got a quarterback. Who do you want to lead with for your stuff? Also, you're the loudest page turner in the history of page turners.
Sweet. Alrighty, let's talk about. I'm going to start with the cornerback.
Yep.
Let's start with Jeff Okudah. Did I say that right there?
Yep.
Excellent, Jeff Okudah. Okay, so he's a cornerback at Ohio State. So he's 6'1", 200 pounds. He's a junior, so he's coming up in his 3rd year. So when you turn on the tape, man, this guy is unreal. So the first thing I'm going to say is just like my last defensive prospect, his arms I know he's only 6'1", but his arms are very lengthy, or very long.
Yep.
So he gets up and press. He'll play press. He doesn't seem to get his hands on the guys, which is a little confusing, but he does all right. What pops out at you? There's a lot that pops out. All right, so first thing I'm going to get into, he's in man coverage a lot. So they leave him on an island more than your average Joe. So that just tells you how talented this boy is. He never seems to really I don't want to say get beat. Okay, so this is how quick he is. I find he's deceivingly quick. If the receiver is coming across the field and he's got him beat, or let's say he gets picked, he's quick enough that he can recover and get a hand in there. He had it says 9 breakup, like pass breakups, like the deflections. Man, every time you turn on the tape with this guy, it's like he's breaking up the pass. So it's kind of deceiving. I think he had more than that, really, honestly. He had 2 first fumbles this year. He had 3 picks. He's always in good position. He's always around the ball. He had
and
29 solo tackles.
Is he
35
that
tackles.
He's kind of a throwback to that, shutdown corner that we kind of, the Dion.
I hate to say it, but like the Revis Island.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that jumps out at you. Like I said, he deflects so much pass. He's always in man coverage. They don't throw his way a lot. When they do, they regret it. It seems like but that's not all he does well. Like, he's been in some zones. You know what I really loved about him is he's always looking in the backfield at the quarterback. That jumps out at me big time, and you gotta have confidence. And who doesn't do that? Seems like he's got great instincts. His tackling, really good, but this is my pet peeve, and you know this. Doesn't always wrap up. Sometimes he goes in for like that hockey hit. You know what I mean? He normally tries to take the big guys on low, which I love because, let's be realistic, you lose 2 or 3 yards, you get trucked by a big guy, like a big example, like a Marshawn Lynch. He's going to drag you for 3 or 4 more yards. At least he's smart enough to hit him low, so that's not the case. He's an athlete. Like I said about the tackling, that was my only kind of downfall with him.
And that's a lot of that's a lot of cornerbacks, right? Like a lot of these.
Great. Like if he's playing, like not playing press, like he's 5 yards or 10 yards off the receiver. Let's say they throw a bubble screen at him. He's aggressive. He recognizes it right away, and he's up there. He can get. I thought he does a pretty good job for a cornerback of getting around offensive tackle or a guard or a fullback, right, or a tight end trying to block him, right? Get what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyways. He does an outstanding job getting around it, and he brings the guy down, and they get like a minimal gain. Like, if you're getting blocked and you only give up 2 or 3 yards, and you make that tackle and you're getting blocked, you get off that block and make that tackle, you're doing an outstanding job, man. Like, these are just some of the things I notice. It's just he's deceivingly fast, which I love. Like I said, they go deep on him all the time. He wins most of the 50-50 battles. Like, more than 50. Like, personally, I think he wins like 75% of them. He's deflecting passes. He's always in man coverage. He's always on the receiver's head. It's just like they're not open at all. It's a tight window, and we're not in the NFL here.
Yeah, and so the place that he's everyone's kind of had mocked to is the Lions, and a lot of that's because Matt Patricia does run a lot of man coverage. So a lot of people are going to say, well, who do they actually care about? Do they care about a rusher or a tackle or what? They obviously didn't care about Darius Slay. They traded Darius Slay off to the Eagles. They don't care about corners. Well, no, Darius Slay plays more of a zone. He obviously doesn't get along with the coach either. There's another, one of those issues.
He doesn't agree with all.
Yeah, which is fine.
Change.
But if you do a lot of this, right? Like it's Jeffrey Okudah kind of fits that bill for what the Lions want to do on defense, which is play man coverage and get after the quarterback with not a big, they don't really like to bring a whole lot of guys, right? They want to try to run more guys out there. I
hate to say this, but in my notes I have one man show.
Yeah.
And I'm not. He's humble. He doesn't get up and he's pumping his fist, and he's a hell of a ball player, man. He's like, I thought he's really smart. He does everything really well. I wish in the tape you see a little bit of zone, but so I can't really give you a good description there. He looked all right in it, but you know what I mean? He was mostly in man coverage. Yeah. He didn't get a lot of help, like safety help. So like I said, that's impressive, right? He's in college. So like literally in my notes, I have one man show. It just sticks out at you. I love it. Like I said, he's always in the back hip. He's always got a hand reaching out and deflecting the pass. He's a hell of a ball player, man. Like anybody would be lucky, and I can understand why they think he's going to be the best, or he is the best cornerback in this draft. And after watching the tape,
he's impressive, right? Like so, and it's no surprise. Out of Ohio State, they've had lots of good, cornerbacks over the years.
Well, top like in the top 5, there's talking about 2 defensive players going right there, right?
Yeah.
So,
with you bringing that up, I'm going to move over to my first guy that I want to talk about, and that is his teammate, Chase Young, the edge rusher out of Ohio State. So keeping it with the Buckeyes. So Chase Young, 6'5", 264. So he's on the smaller smaller end for a rusher. He played both sides, left and right. That's a lot of these rushers nowadays. They move all over the line. He even lined kind of on the inside a little bit once or twice from the stuff I was watching from some of the tape. So he'll line up right, straight across from everything. In 2019, he had 32 tackles by himself, 16.5 sacks, 6 forced fumbles, 3 passes defended. The year before, he had 10.5 sacks. He had 1 forced fumble, 5 passes defended. So he's out there, he's running around, and this guy is. A lot of people are saying, he's a can't miss prospect. And he's coming from a long line of guys that have done really well. You look at the Bosa brothers. They both came out of
outstanding
out of Ohio State, and both of them have been awesome. How can you? I get the luxury of watching Joey Bosa play, every Sunday, and the guy is ridiculous. And he was,
relentless.
So that's one of the issues I have with Chase Young. Where Joey Bosa, the only issue I had with Joey Bosa coming out of college, I thought I liked him a lot. But the one issue I did have with him was, he's a lot of effort and he really tries hard. And at some point,
high motor.
Yeah, and at some point, does that work in the NFL if you don't have the skill? And I obviously thought Joey Bosa had skills still, but I thought well, does he have, does a high motor make for, you have relentlessness in college? Does that push him over the edge? But when he gets to the NFL, that's how a lot of guys play. So one of my issues with Chase Young is that once in a while he just takes the play off. Like if it's a run to the left side and he's on the right side, forget about it. Like he's not trying to chase that guy down to see if he can get in the play. It's mostly, a lot of it's on run plays, but even on quick passes out to the opposite side of him, even on his side, he's just like, okay, nope, somebody else will make the tackle. And that's not going to work in the NFL. And, maybe it's something that can get coached up by, they're saying he's going to go to the Redskins, number 2 overall. But that was the main thing that I saw. That was just, it's frustrating.
For Rivera, you're going to play or you're going to sit on the bench. Because I'll tell you one thing, Rivera gets the best of those players. And if you don't play hard for him, you're not going to play. That goes. He's he's not like a Belichick, but you know what I mean.
But
I've got big time respect for him.
But he expects a lot of his players. So,
like
I said, just when you see it, that'd be my big thing coming out from, like I said, you see the Bosa brothers and what they did at Ohio State, but those guys are just like you said, like they don't stop. Until the whistle blows, they're chasing somebody, and because of that, you see a lot of they get a lot of sacks because they just didn't stop.
I'm not calling your boy Bosa. I'm not calling him JJ Watt. But when I first saw when they first started showing him coming out of college, you know what I mean, before he was drafted, that's the first thing I saw when they say big motor.
Yeah.
You first think JJ Watt. Now, unfortunately, he's pretty good still, but he's been slowed by injuries. But he had a pretty good year this year when he actually was on the field. Thank fuck. Anyways, but Bosa too. I'm a huge Bosa fan, and I'm not a big I like your team.
Yeah,
always did. LT boy, shout out to LT.
There you go, my boy.
Getting her done. Oh man, I miss LT. But anyways, I like Chase. I think he's quick as hell. He gets in the backfield, and people don't give him enough credit for his run game too to stop the run.
Yeah, I found he was good. He was decent in it. What?
He gets a lot of big games. They talked about he didn't have great numbers. Yeah, but if you watch the tape, he was in the backfield and causing havoc with the offense. See, you get enough credit for that.
And maybe other games. I watched the Clemson game, and one of my notes is kind of like he just got eliminated in that game. Like he just, they had him. Yeah. Well, no, even him, like the left tackle. Like I said, he plays on the right side a lot. And I think that's probably where he'll try to play the most when it comes to the next level. But he plays on the right, right end usually. he was getting essentially just the left tackle was just handling him, which you don't see very often. You watch the tape against Wisconsin and a couple other games, he was just beating guys left, right, and center. And maybe he was hurt. Maybe he was nicked up. Maybe that's part of it. But he was just not getting there. And like I said, that's part of the, you got to keep on going. You got to keep on fighting. You got to battle through blocks. You got to do whatever you can. So they end up switching him over to the other side, the left side. And he still didn't have a whole lot of luck. He had the one or two kind of ones that he got there a little bit, but he never got to Trevor Lawrence. I don't think he ever knocked Trevor Lawrence down. So he didn't even have
but Clemson on that point too, though. Clemson, they move the ball. Trevor Lawrence does not hold on to the ball at all.
No, and Trevor's it's
out quick.
The guy, if he came out this year, he'd probably be the first overall pick, right? Like he's going to be the first overall pick next year. So it's one of those things. Like I said, to go on the good side of it, like I said, I didn't mean to just bash on him, but that was the only thing I had as an issue. And like I said, when I could compare it to another player that I get to watch all the time, that was it. And like I said, it's a frustrating thing, because if he tunes that up and if he becomes every down gives 110%, and maybe he's saving it, right? Look, I don't want to go run over there.
I don't know. I think
you're out there.
Hands down the best edge rusher in this class.
Oh, 100%. So when you get into the actual thing, so his first step is ridiculous. He has the bend. He's got that Von Miller. He's got he looks like a guy out of the track boot. You know what I mean? Like when he takes off. Yeah, and because he gets going and he gets around the edge quickly. Like a lot of these offensive linemen can't even kick out as fast.
He comes out so low of his stance too. It's just unreal.
And a lot of times when he comes out, he gets that first step, and then he's got a hand. He's got a hand on you, right? So as soon as he gets out, he's kind of giving that punch to the hand out. So the lineman's got to figure out what he's doing, and he kind of uses the rush outside kind of to set up the inside rush, which is what obviously a lot of these guys do. But he's got good hands. They could probably improve a little bit, but he's still got.
Everybody can improve their technique, right? That's why they're professionals.
And that's why these guys are coming out of college, right? So nobody
exactly.
And he's got that raw talent. On top of obviously putting up, 16.5 sacks, 10.5 last year, he's got all this raw talent, all this, crazy, measurables and everything else. But then he's still doing it, but you can see that there's still on top of that. Like there's still that next little bit to go. Like I said, he could
another gear, another level.
He could work on his, like I said, the run blocking or his, getting off the run block. He could work off that. But if you just say look, Chase, go out. All I want you to do is go get the quarterback. Or if it's look, Chase, we're up by a touchdown or 2 touchdowns, and we know that they're going to be throwing here for the next 7 minutes. That's the guy you want on your side, because there's nobody else in this draft class that has that explosive to get after the quarterback. Like I said, have to wait to see how he does against the rush, especially in the NFL. A lot of these, every tackle is good in the NFL, right? Well, I shouldn't say that. I watched the Chargers. We didn't have we didn't have good tackles.
They all can't be studs, bro. That's how that works.
Nope. They all played college at some point, right?
And even a stud too. You know what I mean? Struggles on the odd day in football.
It is what it is. But like I said, he's just got a lot of things going for him. Like I said, the only issue I had was that, like I said, the effort sometimes. Like I said, if he thinks he's out of the play, he's out of the play in his mind, and so he's either walking or he's just.
So you'd like to see a little more effort all around, never give up on a play.
Exactly. Like I said, I've watched.
I remember we were talking last time. So you're basically saying he doesn't all the time play whistle to whistle, and I'm a firm believer. You got to have a guy that wants to play. Well, I'm a big believer in play until you hear the whistle. Yep. And that's exactly what you're saying. He doesn't do that every play,
and obviously,
which is a sin.
And obviously, it's harder, right? You're going to get more tired because you're chasing guys for no reason, right? But you never know what can happen. At any point in time,
never give up on a play, man.
A fumble could happen, and all of a sudden you're you're 5 yards closer. All of a sudden you can pick up that fumble and go the other way. The more numbers you have, or you could just break the receiver or the running back could just break a tackle. Right, we've all seen it. It's football. That's what these guys are out there to do.
Weird things happen.
But like I said, I think he's, unless somebody trades up for a quarterback like Tua or another quarterback. I think you're gonna see him go second overall, or like I said,
so I'll pose you this question. I think that too. I really think Washington would be dumb to not take him there. Yeah. But do you think Washington trades out, or do you think Washington takes a quarterback?
I don't think they take quarterback, but I think if it's anything, I think they trade out. But like I said I don't think it's if they thought about changing quarterbacks, if they said like screw it, we want Tua. Dwayne Haskins was the old regime, right? Like that's not Ron Rivera's guy, and Dwayne Haskins didn't put up good numbers.
Didn't get a lot of opportunity.
But
I will say that
the opportunities he did get, he didn't look great.
He didn't look great. Yeah,
so,
I totally agree. But I think that's one of those cases, like I've said before, and I preach all the time. He shouldn't have got a snap last year. He would have been better off if this year was the year. Yeah. That's the way I feel. See, that's why I hate so much change when you fire coaches, GMs, and jump the gun and don't give them.
The thing
didn't they had Jay there, wasn't
it? Yeah, Jay there. Yeah, Jay was there for 10 years.
Well, Jay's been there for a long time.
So that was enough time for them to finally say, look, we're making a change. But it's hard to say. But like I said, Chase Young's for sure going to be the first rusher, edge rusher off the board. And I think he's the first.
I hate to agree with you, but
I think he's the first non-quarterback off the board too. It'd be interesting to see what Detroit does if for some reason somebody trades up, and he's just sitting there. Do they?
I thought about this. Like Detroit, if they stay at 3, I'll be disappointed if they don't take a defensive player because they need help on that side of the ball. But if they do trade down, there's lots of good players, and they better get some picks.
Yeah, I'd almost wait. It's one of those things that I think they would, but I think they wait right to see until what Washington does. And then if Washington, stays there and takes Chase Young, if you think if it's the Dolphins or it's the Chargers moving up, which I think we both talked about, I think it's the Dolphins more likely to trade up than anything. It's, the Lions would almost be stupid not to trade back. Okudah's chances are going to be there unless the Giants take him, which I think they're more in the mode right now of let's get an offensive tackle or something like that, something to help out our quarterback of the future and our running back, our star prized running back. So, they'd almost be stupid not to trade back, but it is what it is. Like I said, there's essentially right now, if you just left everybody where they are, if it was just, look, no trades, Bengals 1, take Burrow. I think at that point, Redskins take Chase Young, and then Okudah goes 3 to the Lions. So it will be interesting. So the other guy, though, he could also be in the mix, and people have talked about him going to the Dolphins. People have talked about him going to the Chargers. You want to talk now about Mr. Justin Herbert out of Oregon, the quarterback.
Yeah, see, I thought I'd do Justin Herbert because Eric's not a fan, and he's a Chargers fan, and he doesn't want to see him go there. But I will say, when you start watching the tape, before we even get into him, there is a little bit of a fit there. I should say the way the Chargers used to play, like with Phillip Rivers, like throwing the ball deep, a lot of play action. When I say play action, it's really the pistol, and they're going what did they do in college there? The pistol, and then there's the quarterback option. There it is, the option. I knew it would come out eventually. But, so you start watching them a little bit, and they like to go deep a lot. So it's not like you can't get it out totally right away. So he's holding on to the ball. I like to say 5 Mississippis or tugboats or whatever you want to call it. But anyway, so here we go with Justin Herbert. First thing, he's 6'6", 237. So he's a tall mother beaver, which I love. He's a senior. This is another thing I talked about before. So he's got lots of snaps. I love it. Helps you develop. You see more defenses. Gives the quarterback a little bit more time. When you play longer, you see more things. You can read coverages better. Like Patrick Mahomes come out and said, was it last year that he come out and said that this first year he couldn't even read half the field.
Couldn't read a defense.
By the end of it, he could read, or towards the next season he could read everything or close to everything.
Which that just shows you how much coaches matter in this league, right?
Oh, it matters. It's a different league. It's faster. NFL's big ball, boy, like big boy ball. They call it.
And everyone says, well, Patrick Mahomes would be good anyways, but would he? Right? Like if he had went to say the Cardinals and that terrible offensive line they had, a couple years ago, and they don't have, they have the coach they had there, not Cliff Kingsbury now. Obviously, maybe he'd be able to do something with them, but if they had the old coach, right? Does he come out? They say like, look, we think you might want to do this. If they don't have a coach to really coach him up, does he become what he is? So, you hope that wherever Justin Herbert goes, they kind of want to put in a plan to work with them. And that's what you want for any quarterback, no matter who's getting drafted, right?
Did you watch any tape on Herbert? I was just curious.
Yeah, so I have. Not
what you think?
Not right before this. Not super impressed. Obviously, if you just look
I'm gonna change your mind.
Well, obviously, if you just look at highlights, and with all these guys, I stopped watching. A couple years back, it's always good to watch the highlights just to see what you like about the guy, right? See if you really like
what
this
he does good. Yeah,
what he does good. But anybody can take, if you want to take 10 top plays of any player, any player will look good, right? They're guys that are projected to go in the first, second, third round of the NFL draft. They're not a slouch. They're not you and I.
Exactly. They're not the average Joe out there.
Yeah, exactly.
Hoping not to pull their hammy.
Exactly. So they're gonna have something that obviously at some point made them look like, look, this guy's gonna be worth taking a shot at. For me, a lot of it was just, and he's a multi-sport athlete. That's good to see. It's good to see that he's kind of come up. I actually listened to a couple podcasts and interviews and stuff with him, and like I said, a lot of people just say, look, the guy's a leader. He works hard out there. A lot of stuff you want to hear. I just don't know.
He's not your favorite.
At the next level, does he become, and I guess he had a good year, but does he become a Daniel Jones? And I wasn't, I don't think anybody was super excited about Daniel Jones last year. Same as somebody like Mitch Trubisky.
You know what though?
Is it somebody you're just taking a reach at?
Daniel Jones, okay. I didn't want to. I thought maybe that was a reach. He really showed me something last year, and I think they got something to build on there.
I do too.
I really
but
like
it's one of those things.
He's mobile, he's accurate, and he's got a cannon of an arm, and he does a pretty good job.
And I think Justin Herbert, it's all about value, right? So for me as a Chargers fan, and because this guy's been kind of linked to either, and it's because it's the teams that need a quarterback, right? So
exactly.
Throughout the year, it was the Bengals, the Dolphins, the Chargers. That is the teams that you constantly see all this stuff with. And like I said, obvious. I've seen him, quoted to the Jaguars. I've seen him quoted to you guys. If he falls all the way down there.
Listen, if New England takes this boy, I'm gonna be happy. I'm gonna get into some reasons why.
But at 23 or whatever you guys are, 20 whatever.
23. No, you're right. 23. Yep.
Yeah.
That's correct.
So with you guys, if you're picking him up at that point, that makes sense because you're down far enough that it's like, okay, it's not even just so much best player available. It's just where. I guess it is kind of best player available, right? Like at number 5 or 6.
Didn't it when Aaron Rodgers dropped down the board? Didn't that work out for the Packers?
And it does, right? But Aaron Rodgers was also supposed to be like one of the better quarterbacks in the draft.
We can even go. We can also say that about Big Ben.
Yeah,
he fell down the board. He was towards the end of the first round, I believe, right? With the Steelers.
Yeah, because they thought he was going to go. Well. They thought he was going to go to the Giants or
the Giants really liked him and liked Eli.
So a lot of this goes in. I said I think he's a decent prospect. I just don't want to see my team, which is the Chargers, and if you guys listen to this and then they take him in 2 weeks, then you know that I'm probably crying. At this point, I would have been crying for a couple hours, but I just don't see the value at 6th overall for it to be, that's the guy you want to take to start your franchise around. I think there's just better players.
Well,
I just think there's better players. I'd rather take a guard or a tackle or Isaiah Simmons, something like that at the top. I think you get more value for the place. But I understand quarterback trumps everything.
If you think it's coming from a New England fan here, if you think he's the franchise guy, you've got to fucking take him.
Yep.
Like New England just had a quarterback for 2 decades, and they did nothing but win titles in their division. Get what I mean? Like they just dominated football.
And they had to make the decision,
And
right?
now, quote unquote, Tommy, it wasn't all Tommy. The first, let's say, 3 years.
Yeah.
Especially the first 2.
Your first Super Bowl.
Forget this, but the second year in New England, where Tom Brady was really the first year he came in as starter. So the second year after they won the Super Bowl, they did not make the playoffs. People forget that. They went 9-7. Anyways, it was after that he kind of, so really his second year as a starter that he really took off. And that's what people forget. But the only point I'm going to make to you, Eric, I totally agree with you. But I'm just saying, I understand why. Like, so let's take him. If you really believe this guy is a guy, and I said let's even 10 years, right? And 10 really good years. And you like when I say 10 years, like I'm talking, you guys are in the playoffs. Got to be in the playoffs, 8 of them, 9 of them, right? Like let's say there's an injury or whatever. Maybe he doesn't play all 10 years, but you know what I mean. And I mean highly competitive. You guys are highly competitive with it.
Yeah. So
I'm just saying, if you're the GM,
and that's your guy,
but you know it's got to be a group decision.
So,
like, if you're the head coach and I'm your GM, and you're like, Trevor, I want this guy, and I say to you, Eric, I don't like him, you know, and you give me a hard time, and I say, fuck it, we'll take it. We'll take a bet on your guy, and you know, but if me and you come to a conclusion, and other guys, it's a group committee thing, and we all like him. Yeah. Well, you got to take him.
And it's that's the thing.
But I know what you mean. Like,
and like I said,
would you rather trade down? But will he be there?
See, I like I said, it's. I think if he goes past the Chargers, there's a chance that he drops to like the 20s. If nobody else,
I'd love to take him.
There's
a lot of teams that don't need quarterbacks. That's the thing.
That's the thing, right? You have either guys that are, you know, and trust me, there's a lot of teams that actually need quarterbacks, right? You know, whether they think so or not, but there's a lot of teams that are kind of stuck in that middle ground, right? Like, you know, would he be a good pick for the Raiders? And like, you know, obviously Raiders fans are going to say no.
I'm still waiting for the Miami Dolphins to cut Rosen.
Yeah.
Callie Rosen. I love Callie Rosen.
It's not Callie Rosen. Callie Rosen's a defenseman for the Leafs.
I'm sorry.
You mean Josh Rosen.
Yes, Josh Rosen. I'm sorry. Like, I'm just really excited. I just think he didn't get a fair kick at the can.
I'm playing a season of Madden right now, and I traded for Josh Rosen.
I love him.
And anyways, he's my starting quarterback, and I just won a Super Bowl with him. So let's just put it that.
Go.
But
right, let's get back at it.
So what is it that you saw from from Justin Herbert on tape that you liked?
All right, so he's in shotgun a lot, or he's in pistol. Okay, that comes out at you right away.
And that's kind of typical for college, right?
It is. So the first thing that jumps out is the guy 6'6", like I said, 237 pounds. He's an athlete. He's deceivingly quick. By this I mean, like, he can take off. He can run with the ball. So this kind of new era with these quarterbacks like Mahomes, Lamar, like these guys that can just create themselves some time or take off with it and get a first down. Excuse me, Josh Allen. So I really like this. Okay. So what I noticed with him, he'll roll out of trouble. Let's say he'll roll out one side of the pocket or the other, and he'll throw and hit a receiver, and he'll be accurate. Okay. But the best part about this, which a lot of people aren't going to like, is his feet when he's out of the pocket on the scramble. He never sets his feet. But the surprising thing is he always seems to be accurate for the most part. And by that, I mean like 75% of the time. If you go watch him on tape and he's on the run and he rolls out and it's not by design, that's exactly what I mean. It's not by design. He does not get his feet set. He's either thrown off his back foot or he's disoriented or his shoulder, he's all torqued every way. So I was impressed by that. So, you know, he's got a decent arm. I'm not going to say great arm.
No, but he's got the intangibles, right? Like he's got a good arm.
You know what I mean? Like you got to have a pretty good arm when you're not set and stepping into a throw and you make it with ease. Another thing, so a little bit of a knock. Like I said, I didn't see enough of him underneath the center. So if you're bringing him in and you're underneath the center, your team that's underneath, like so the Pats, the Chargers do it some. Anyways, the Rams. If you're not underneath the center all the time, so he's going to have to get reps that way. I'm not quite sure what he is that way, you know what I mean, with his feet work.
Yep.
Like I also said, the Oregon Ducks like to push the ball downfield, so he holds on to it. He seems to read the field really well. At the Columbine, he got a bad knock. They were saying things like he seems to be trying to accurately put the ball or force the ball in places. Like when you watch the Columbine, people, if you did or if you didn't, that is true. Like sometimes you could see it. He was uncomfortable. He was trying. He didn't know those receivers.
But it's also hard
when he's playing for his own boys. Like he's playing with Oregon guys he knows. He's outstanding. He's really accurate. And first of all, I didn't think he was that accurate.
The throwing mechanics are one thing that you can never. I guess that's what the Combine's for. You want to just. It's not so much the accuracy. You want to just see, how he throws, his throwing motions, his release points.
It's important though. Can we not agree in the NFL?
100%. But you're also throwing against air, right? So you don't have to worry about coverages. You don't have to worry about rushing. So that's where it comes back. And like I said, that we'll say this a million times, from now until forever, that you got to watch the games because you got to see how they react. So one of the issues I had with them is that, in some of the biggest games this year, they go play Wisconsin, which they're a good team, and they won the game. They won 27, but he went 14 for 20 for 138 yards and an interception, no TDs. He did rush 9 times for 29 yards and 3 TDs. So, he did have, he obviously did score some, rushing touchdowns. That's where he got the...
People don't realize he's actually really good running the ball. He's smart. Like I said, it's a quarterback option. They do it a lot there. And he does a really good job of it. So I think that really transpires really good in the NFL because that is
because you got to be able to get out of a lot of teams are using that to kind of mask some offensive line issues, which you're going to find offensive line issues no matter where you play. But I said even against Utah, and this was more of a bigger game where they kind of won by a bit, but he went 14 for 26 for 193 yards and only 1 touchdown. And didn't add really anything on the ground, 7 for 20, so he wasn't really rushing for a whole lot of yards. So it's one of those things.
He does let's be realistic though. He does like to throw from the pocket.
Yeah, but it's just one of those things. It's you'd want to see a little more out of him. Like I said, his last 3 games, he went for 138 in the Rose Bowl. The big Pac-12 championship, it was 193, and the Pac-12. It's the weaker of the divisions. I kind of, it's
that's
not
up for debate.
Well, it's not the SEC. That's, I don't care who it is, but the defenses are better in the SEC, I think. And then
your opinion.
And then they played Oregon State, and he went for 174 yards and 1 TD. Right, so he put up good numbers against Arizona State, and like Arizona and Arizona State, he put up 300 yards against both of them. But he also he went 2 for 2 TDs and 2 interceptions against Arizona State. And Arizona, he had 4 touchdowns. So that was his kind of big game, for the year. But I think he's good. I think he's a good prospect, and I think he should be the 3rd quarterback off the board. Some people are talking about Jordan Love. I don't see it. I see the splash plays like.
You don't like Love?
I like Love, but I find it's like you really you wouldn't be able to take. Maybe they do, right? Because we've thought nobody's taken Trubisky this high, nobody's taken Daniel Jones this high.
Nobody took Holmes.
Nobody's taken a lot of these guys this high, but
I will say this, man. I watched Trubisky quite a bit that year. He was almost like a 1-year starter, and I couldn't believe that they took him. They traded up to get him. He has a crazy arm and stuff, but he was never in college. He was never that accurate, and I found he was actually a little bit better in the NFL when he came than I thought he would be. But whatever, I still haven't given up on him.
No,
Who knows with the Bears.
That's good though. Like I said, I'm glad you went with Herbert. Like I said, I don't hate him. I think he's, like I said, the 3rd best. Yeah, but it's not even that I dislike him. It's that I dislike him at 6th overall. That's the issue.
I just see so many things that I like. Like I said, when you don't have to set your feet and you're running out of the pocket for your life. Yeah. And you hit a strike, I like that. He also has the ability, the tape shows us, he hits guys on their back shoulder for touchdowns or big yard gainage, like where the defender can't get at it. Yeah. A lot of guys in the pardon my French, in the NFL can't even do that. Like Tom Brady, yes, Aaron Rodgers, Peyton Manning. These guys did it and made a living at it. And Drew Brees. I want to throw Brees out there because Brees is amazing. But so there's just a lot really to like. He seems to, if there's pressure up the middle, he's deceiving in the pocket, not like Tom Brady, but he can shift around. He doesn't have to take off running for his life. So he seems to got good awareness that way. And hit a strike. He's looking downfield for the most part, which I really enjoy too. Like Eric touched on, he had 6 interceptions this year, but in college that's a pretty damn good year. He had 32 passing touchdowns. What else did he need to work on? When he was running, I kind of found he should tuck the ball away a little bit more. I was a little concerned about that.
Yeah, no, he didn't have a terrible year. Like I said, it's just there's a lot of little stuff that he just, like I said, and I think you get him at the end of the first round. I think it's a good deal. I think anybody's lucky to have him at that point. Like I said, for me, the only issue I really have is the placement of him going that early. So, but
another thing that really stood out too is he led his receivers very well. I found. I'm glad I noticed this in my notes. So he like when they went on about the accuracy, I really had a problem with that because when you go look at the tape, he was very accurate. Like, so I know, like I said, he was bad at the Combine, but like me and Eric just said, when you don't know your guys, those guys well, and there had to be some nerves in that as well. When you go look at the tape, man, he's deadly accurate. A lot of times when the receiver catches the ball, he's off for another 10 yards or 5 yards. He hits them in stride. You don't see that a lot. The odd pass is thrown behind the receiver, which I also really liked. Throws deep, like his timing routes and stuff, they seem to be bang on for the most part. The very odd pass, you don't see it often, like I said. He'll be behind his receiver. But I was so impressed because I figured there'd be a lot more inconsistency that way. And like I said, it really jumps out at you. He throws to a spot. Oh, and another thing that was, like, when it comes to the spot and stuff, he also, when you're throwing to the end zone and the guy's covered, he did a good job throwing it lower so his receiver could only make the play or the back shoulder, like I said before. This all jumps out at me. Lot to like. But like I said to Eric and you guys earlier, you know, he's running out of the pocket, doesn't set his feet. That can be concerning because the NFL, you can't rely on your arm like that.
No, guys are too quick.
He tries to make a play, throwing across his body and across the field, which in the NFL, it's not going to happen, boy. It's going to be an INT every time.
Like I said, I think everyone just has to, like I said,
more to like. He seems intelligent. He seems to make the better plays. Another thing I didn't see enough of is the kind of like what do you call that? Audible. So that's hard to judge, but like I think, but I do like what I see.
Yeah.
I think he's a great prospect. He's an elite prospect. I understand why he's in the top 5. I think the right coach gets their hands on them, they're going to be very happy. This is another guy. I think he's really good, and if you have to start him right away, you can. But I think you're hurting him too. Like I said, I think that's know the offense. Really, I
think that's why he kind of fits that end of the first round. Hopefully, you don't just start him in the first year and go from there. Like I said, because I think it's Burrow's
a
one.
A lot to like, though.
Yeah, but like I said, that's why they're these prospects.
And like I said, I can't stress this enough. He started for 4 years, and I really like that. Because if you go in the NFL right away and you're not starting right away, you still got to hand up on some guys because they're coming out in their second or third year.
Yeah, because they're younger.
Especially for quarterback. If you only played 1 year, and he started at least 3 years there for sure.
Yeah.
So
no, he's
seasoned somewhat.
No, he started 4 years. He threw for, almost 2,000, almost 2,000, 3,000, and then this past year was his biggest year. He put up 3,400 yards, almost 3,500 yards, 32 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. So, like I said, he did well, but it's just like I said, wait and see. Like I said,
I was impressed though. Led his receivers like that jumped out at me.
Yeah,
a lot of.
I think it's like I said, for me. I think like I said, the talk just has to stop about him going ahead of Burrows or Tua. Like I said, I understand the injury concerns for Tua, but. I said it's just,
you know why I'd give Tua the edge, and this is just personally
because he's electric.
Yes, he's electric, obviously, but Tua, he's just done it. So for Tua, he comes in a national championship game in the final, and he comes in and tears it up. They were down big, and he tore it up, and you didn't even know they were down. It looked like he came out and started the game. So he's a gamer. And Herbert has lost some big games. But, you can't put that on one guy.
No,
he hasn't looked
it's
bad
a
in
team.
those games.
It's a team game, right? So
it's hard to judge a guy, but like if you're, Tua also what works in Tua's favor is people don't talk about enough is he throws with the left hand.
Yeah.
And you don't see that too often, and that throws defense off big time.
Yeah. So one of the things about Tua is, and
Write
obviously different where he's a left-handed guy, is that for him the left tackle is not as important as the right tackle. So the other guy I wanted to highlight is his right tackle out of Alabama, Jedrick Willis Jr. He's 6'5", 320 pounds. He is so good. So I talked the other day about Tristan Wirfs, which is really good. Don't get me wrong. I think Jedrick Willis is even better.
He's not your favorite.
Well, like I said, I like Wirfs, but I think Willis is just that next step. Like to me, the top 2 tackles in this draft are Andrew Thomas and then Jedrick Willis. Jedrick Willis, like I said, 6'5", 320. The guy is. His footwork is like all you gotta do is go watch some film, and like he's playing against good guys. So the Auburn defensive tackle Brown that you highlighted in I think episode 2, maybe 3, can't remember, but he erased that guy when he went against Auburn. Like didn't even like Brown wasn't even making, and that I guess is kind of one of the things against Brown was that they said like against good competition, he kind of disappeared a little bit. But a couple things I like about Jedrick Willis, he keeps his hips square to the rusher. So he's getting in there and he stays square to you. So if you're trying to go around him, you're trying to cut back, and it helps for the cutback, right? The big thing you see with a lot of these tackles in college is that they protect the outside so much that a lot of times they'll get beat to the inside. That was my issue with
like a basketball player who keeps you in front of you.
Yeah, and like that was my issue with Wirfs was that he would get beat on the inside, but this guy he's calm, he sits back there,
good feet. Then he must have decent feet.
So good, like his feet are so good as he's like I said stays square. Feet are always moving. He stays on you. He's quick. He's agile. I said he's playing right tackle, but I wouldn't be surprised if you see him eventually move over to the left. So
potential, nice.
Yeah, like he's that fluid. Like I said, I don't think Wirfs can make that change. I think Wirfs is stuck at either right or moves into guard, but Willis I wouldn't have an issue at all moving him to left. With them, like you said, obviously and obviously Tua got hurt this season, but where Tua is left-handed, the right side is obviously his blind side. So that's why he's there. When they switch quarterbacks, you're not going to switch a guy's sides halfway through the year. You have a left tackle that's already comfortable over there. It's a little different, but he's got a quick first step. He's got really good feet, and he's got a good punch. Like you come out and he puts a hand on you right away. Like no matter what it is, he's good when it comes to that. Even against the rush, he's getting off guys, and he's like I said, he's driving through guys. He's finishing his blocks. He's like there was one that it was kind of funny. It was against Auburn, and it wasn't Brown, but it was another guy on their team. And it was like a screen the other way, and the guy was coming, and he kind of just gave him like a shot down. It was kind of funny. He kind of just like threw him with like one hand, and he's like, get down. But it was just, but he was just like, he just wanted to be like, look, this is my game. I'm better than you.
You're my bitch.
I own you. Yeah. Like I said, he's good. He follows through. He'll attack one blocker, move on to the next. I really didn't have a whole lot. Like I said, he could be a little meaner in the run game if you want to get really, specific about it. But he's good, and I think he's, like I said, I like Andrew Thomas the most. He's my favorite, and then it's Jedrick Willis right behind. Like it's almost like a 1A, 1B, or
Those are your guys.
Yeah, like I said, they're just impressive. Like I said, just watching. Like I said, he plays it the right way. Even with you've seen a couple times, and maybe he gets exposed with this in the NFL. But, guys would kind of beat him, kind of get the hands out and, kind of come back across him. I've seen it a couple times, and you're like, oh, no, like, the old. I know it's a basketball term, but it kind of works for tackles too. But hands down, man down, right? Like as soon as you lose your hands, you're out of it. But his feet are so quick that he can, he can recover from it and he gets back in front of them. So it's he's just a pleasure to watch, and I think whoever gets him in the first round. Like I said, I don't know where the talk is.
Getting a hell of a ball player.
Yeah, and I understand, and neither one of us have highlighted Becton yet, and I understand a lot of people, people have him going to the Giants or because he's big, he's 360 or 80 pounds, whatever he is. He's a huge mountain of a man. But this guy, like I said, it's one thing to test good at the combine, one thing to have the intangibles or the raw talent, everything else. But if you don't show it on the field, if you can't show it on tape, then I don't care. And this guy shows it on tape all day long. So I don't know if you're familiar with him at all. I know you probably watched a little bit of Bama tape, but
the old tape speaks volumes. That's how I believe. Yeah, I have seen him play. He is a pretty good player. I like his feet. I find he's an athlete. He moves very well for a big man.
Yeah.
He's pretty good in the run game. Like you said, he's not a mauler. Or I find he gets it done. He misses the odd block, but that's typical, right?
Yeah.
He's pretty good in the pass game too. He moves well. He does get beat the odd time, but so do pretty much all the guys this year got beat here and there. So let's be realistic about it. So there's room to improve.
No matter what. Like I said, we've said it once. We'll say it a million times.
All
these guys are prospects. They're coming in out of college. There's going to be a bit of an adjustment.
He's high on the board for a reason. He is a good player. Yeah. I do like him.
Like you said, I think seeing him go to, I guess it all depends on where people go, but like I said, you could see him go to the Giants, you could see him go to the Chargers, you could see him go to, the Panthers. I don't see this guy getting out of the top 10. Arizona, he's the other guy. They're the other one. Even the Jags, right? But
Panthers just traded a tackle,
and I like that he's the right. I like he's good at right tackle, but like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if this guy kicks over to left. He's that athletic. And we'll do this, so we'll transition now from a team that picked up a good right tackle this year, has to find a left tackle still at some point in this draft. But we're going to highlight tonight the Cleveland Browns.
That's another team that could actually use another offensive lineman, like you said.
Yeah, and I think everyone, they kind of have the Browns, unless somebody big falls to them. I think everybody kind of has a left tackle, linked to them. Whether it's a Willis, whether it's Andrew Thomas, whether it's whoever it is.
They're so unpredictable, man. I'm not even going to hold my breath. Jesus.
Yeah, so
but Cleveland Browns.
you gotta hope that they can figure it out. So they went after being, they were on, I think, ESPN. They were labeled the Super Bowl favorite,
they
not favorites, but
they're going to tear it up.
But they're going to tear it up. One of the things they forgot about though is that they have to, block for your quarterback. So they had second.
Have a good coach.
And that's part of it, right? And that's, I think, Freddie Kitchens probably came in. So they get last year. 2 years ago they started off slow, and then they throw Baker Mayfield in, and Baker starts just tearing it up. Everyone that says
he's a gunslinger, boy.
Everyone that was like, he's not worth trading. He's not worth the first overall pick. They were like, never mind. We all changed our mind. So they're like, look, we're going for it. We're getting OBJ. So they get OBJ, which is like, wow, that's a big pickup. That's a heck of a player. There's not, since he came in the league, it's funny that him and Jarvis Landry, both college, teammates at LSU, now they're on the same team, and they're the two best guys from that draft. Yeah, so it's unreal.
Two of them, yeah.
But then, the Browns, as they made that trade, which kind of made me, I was okay with it. They also made the Olivier Vernon trade, where they trade their guard, Kevin Zeitler, away. And I'm like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Like, you got enough guys.
Vernon, oh man, he's always been overrated. Like, he was horrible for the Dolphins.
And he's got a big contract. And I was like, that doesn't make sense.
Crazy money, which I don't understand. He's never had crazy sack totals. So
no.
He's a good run defender and he gets pressure, but like in my opinion, he's overrated. He's always been overrated. I'm surprised he's still in the NFL, especially for the coin he's making.
Yeah, so
But,
for him,
good
he
on
comes.
the Giants for trading him away.
Oh, and that was really smart for them, right? You get an NFL caliber guard, which they said if you can get a guy
they
that's
got a draft pick.
yeah, exactly. So Olivier Vernon goes out last year, and he plays banged up. I think he only played in 10 games or something like that, maybe 12 games, but he only manages 3.5 sacks. So not the guy you expect. Like I said, especially after you just traded away your tackle. And then Baker Mayfield comes out. Like I said, had a really good first year. His first year he comes out. He played.
They were exciting.
He played in 13 games. He had 3,700 yards, 27 touchdowns. Still had 14 interceptions, which people were hoping he could fix.
Yeah, but he's a rookie, right? Like they were chasing from behind. The whole, how that works. So you're going to throw the odd 50-50 ball more than you would, or try to force it downfield. So some of that had to do with that. Ross Baker, he just gets hyped up. He just tries to force balls in there, and clear examples this year.
Yeah.
But anyway, he was running for his life this year, so it was a little bit different. The line is clearly not the same.
So the line wasn't right. So this year they go out, they grab.
The run game is a lot better this year.
Yeah. So, but they go out this year, they immediately say, look, we're getting Jack Conklin. We don't care what it costs. So they pick up Jack Conklin, right tackle that played for the Titans. Everyone's like, look, that's the smartest thing you could do. Get back to.
They paid him big money too.
Yeah, but it makes sense, right? And then they get Austin Hooper, which also makes sense because, yes, you get David Njoku there, but this is giving you a guy that's put up good numbers, and he's also a blocking tight end. Like Austin Hooper can block, so he's going to put up good numbers. They can run that double tight end set that they want to run some play action, everything else. They pick up a fullback. They trade for Janovich out from Denver. They gave up a 7th round pick. So, what do you got to hope that you pick up something, in the 7th round, or you can get a proven, NFL veteran at fullback.
You know what he is. Got seasoned. Yeah, exactly. Knows what he's doing.
And then
add to that run game. Add to that run game.
Exactly.
Sick, right?
And
that's a really good team last year running.
And you want to, for them, I think that's what you have to do. I think Baker's good, and obviously they could have a very, very explosive offense, and it wouldn't be,
Well, they should have last year. They just didn't give Nick Chubb the ball enough. When you're outrunning half the teams in the NFL and you want to go out there and throw all 3 downs, come on.
But he still did. So Nick Chubb goes out though, and he essentially Derrick Henry took the rushing title from him. But Nick Chubb was almost 1,500 yards. He finished with 1,494. He had 8 touchdowns, 278 receiving yards. But that's kind of where the issue was. So Baker this year had 22 touchdowns to 21 interceptions, almost a 1-to-1 ratio. Not good. But he was sacked.
At all.
But he was sacked 40 times. 40 times.
Oh, yeah. They may as well win in the offensive huddle with him.
Yeah, it's his sack percentage went way up from the year before. The year before he had only 25 sacks, which is still a lot for he only played 3 less games, but still it's not you want to see that number go down or kind of stick around maybe that 25 to 30 range. But he had and then the other issue I guess is that you had was that the receivers, OBJ was hurt all year. He was never right, and to the guy's credit, he played through every injury.
He gutted it out, which I loved. Cleveland's dying for stars.
Yeah. And so Jarvis Landry goes 83 catches for 1,174 yards, 6 TDs. OBJ goes 74 catches for 1,035 yards and 4 TDs. But that's where the receiving stopped. So they didn't have a single other player top 300 yards. The next 2 highest receiving yard players on their team was Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. And then it went...
And Kareem Hunt, when he got off that suspension, man, he exploded for them. Talk about an explosive third. He was only really playing on the 3rd down.
Yeah.
Wow.
But that's what the guy does, right? So but that's the issue, right? When you have 2 guys, that's the only issue.
And they tendered him, which was a hell of a move.
Yeah, but when you have...
if he didn't have his incident, he'd still be the starting back for Kansas City. Could you imagine?
And then to be honest, he should be, because if you're gonna Anyways, we're not gonna. I guess we'll
No
get it.
kidding.
So if you're gonna keep Tyreek Hill, who literally, was accused of punching his pregnant girlfriend in college, and you didn't have an issue taking that guy in the 5th round, and then he comes out this year and his son breaks his arm, and there's a call that they have recordings of the kid screaming and stuff. You're going to keep that guy on the team because he's an electric player, but you're not going to keep Kareem Hunt, who was not in the right. But as far as damage done to somebody, he slightly kicked this drunk girl and he pushed her over and then kicked her, not like, he's not
Bad
Pele.
decision.
He wasn't Pele out there. He's not booting this girl
Still,
and she's going 5 yards.
Decision.
Bad decision for sure. But if you're going to compare the two, if you're going to keep Tyreek Hill, you should probably keep Kareem Hunt at that point. But that's beyond the point.
You know how people are. They're all about their second chances.
Yeah, and I said they didn't have an issue with that at all at Cleveland. They're like, bring him in. We'll no matter where you are, a lot of these, as soon as you get him in the other team, that's what it is. So, but yeah, so the Browns, like I said, they went 6-10. That's not good. Obviously, they're in one of the tougher divisions. Last year should have been one of the years when they could have done better. They're playing against the Bengals, twice last year, who the Bengals obviously had the first overall pick, so they're not good. You also have
the Bengals had a tough year.
Yeah, and then you have the Steelers who lose Big Ben. And so there's your chance to look, there's, wins right there. This is just giving you the opportunity to go out and win, or maybe not win the division because obviously Baltimore's in there too, but compete for the division.
To be up there, be up high, 1-2. Exactly.
And, you have one of these players that's so electric in Myles Garrett, who's a freak. Went first overall.
Yeah, but you know what I'm really disappointed with Myles Garrett is he's taking stupid penalties.
Well, so
those quarterback hits,
he was
hits
just
in the head and all this, he should know better than that shit.
Well, it's obviously he had the helmet issue, which everyone just sits there and shakes their head at him. But
that's unbelievable that he would do something like that. I understand the emotions of the game, but
yeah,
you've got to do something. You've got to control yourself somewhat.
But it's even just the regular quarterback hits. So I don't know. It's the Browns. Like I said, I got faith in them a little bit.
The Browns got some talent, man. They do. They really do.
I didn't understand the whole Browns hype last year, but I think this year, any hype that's there, I think it's warranted, and I think it's worth it. If they can grab another tackle, if they can kind of build around that team, whoever they got to get. The biggest loss I saw for them last year, they said they did have injuries kind of right across the board, which was unfortunate too. Denzel Ward, they missed, a lot of guys missed games, but they lost Joe Schobert, the linebacker, had 133 tackles last year, total tackles between solos and assisted ones. 9 pass defended. He started with
Jacksonville, didn't he?
Yeah, 9 pass defended, 4 interceptions. The guy was flying out there.
Mr. Everything.
And you lost that guy, right? So
I don't know. Block.
I think they do the right thing if they do everything. I still think, they finish second because I think Baltimore is just that well of a run team. But I think there's no reason why they can't.
Honestly, they're going to finish third. You know why? Because they're going to need that one more year.
Yeah, and maybe they do.
Need
right?
that one more year. They might catch one. They might catch the Steelers. Who knows?
Yeah.
But the Steelers defense made strides last year. They got Mika Fitzpatrick from Miami, and he was unreal when he got there. That is Mika Fitzpatrick, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think I was that right.
You had the name right. Good.
Yeah, he was. I watched him a lot in college for Bama.
Yeah.
Unreal playmaker. A lot of teams, he could have played corner too, but whatever. Yeah. That's just how versatile and good player he is. But yeah. I have them slotting in third. I don't know if they're ready yet. Big Ben's coming back. He's got something to prove. He says his first time his elbow, his arm has never hurt in a long time. Yeah. Which is who
crazy.
Knows what Big Ben. Well,
Well,
I'm not a Big Ben fan, but
he'll just dive into a pile next in the first play and fuck it up again because he doesn't know when to dive or doesn't know when not to take a hit.
So. Or to go down, exactly. Yeah. There's a team that could use a receiver.
Yeah, well, they could use a couple. They could use a couple of things on the offensive end.
Actually, the offensive lineman now too. They lost one to free agency and one retired.
Yeah. So, but yeah, we're gonna cut it there. I think we went long again, as per usual.
That's all right.
So
pretty good, I think.
We'll have to merge the two together. But like I said, hopefully some of you guys enjoy this. If you are watching this on YouTube, give us a like, give us a subscribe, leave a comment. It's always good to help. On iTunes, same thing. Want to give us a like or 5 stars, whatever. I can't remember.
Comments.
Just do whatever you can.
There's stars and comments.
And even,
helps people.
Even if you want to share it,
We
like I said,
appreciate
I'm trying to post as much as possible on social media. So follow us on Facebook and Instagram from the bench. And like I said, get interactive with us. Like I said, the more comments, the more feedback we get, the better. So we're just out here trying to
open to ideas,
killing
some time, talking some sports, just living the dream, drinking some cocktails,
so
some kickstarts.
It's a good time, right? So it's like I said, we're just enjoying this, and hopefully you guys too. So for Eric and for Trevor, we're gonna be signing off. Say bye, Trevor.
All right, guys, have a good one, guys. Keep your stick on the ice.
Bye.